Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I'll be refuting yet another argument made against Hadith preservation, namely the rapid numerical growth of Hadith. Let's get started. So, here's the contention: there's a rapid growth of Hadith mentioned in Islamic sources. There's a report that states uh, There's a report that states one person Jabir ibn Abdullah Raziyallahu anhu didn't report a lot of the hadith, while the young men were reporting a hadith quite frequently. There is a report that Abdullah ibn Abbas Raziyallahu anhuma only heard 9 or 10 hadiths directly from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Atta bin Abi Rabah in his work of Musannaf, work in Musannaf Abdul Razak does not report any hadith or only a few hadiths from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. The similar is the case with Amr bin Dinar rahmatullah alayh. Hence it seems that hadiths attributed to Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma in general hadiths, a lot of them were made up. So let's get started on the refutation about this claim. There are actually multiple reports, not just with Jabir ibn Abdullah, right, about Sahaba that basically aren't reporting a lot of ahadith, or are reporting very few ahadith at one time, and then at a later time they report a lot more ahadith. Now let's see if this is something that is plausible given Islamic history and given the conditions or not. There was a lot of fear among Sahaba regarding reporting ahadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of the hadith that whoever reports lies from me will basically find his seat in hellfire. But there was a necessity to report a hadith as well, because otherwise this knowledge would be lost. Now think about this. If this is the case, this is something that they are fearful to do, yet they know they have to do it anyway. How would they be reporting a hadith? Right? At times they would be highly reluctant to report a hadith for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but eventually they would have to end up doing it anyway, because it is also necessary to report a hadith to spread the knowledge. So if this is the case, if this is the scenario, right, then this is exactly what we would expect, that Sahaba are not reporting a hadith at one time, but eventually they know they have to report it, because otherwise the knowledge would be lost. Now basically this was about the contention relating to Jabir ibn Abdullah raziyallahu anhu. Now let's go to the contentions regarding Abdullah ibn Abbas raziyallahu anhu. There is a report that Abdullah ibn Abbas raziyallahu anhu only heard 9 or 10 hadiths directly from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, this is true. Most of the ahadith, almost vast majority of the ahadith that Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu reports, he actually reports them from companions who heard from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now think about this. Is there anything implausible about this? Just do a thought experiment. If there are a lot of early Sahaba who have lived for a long time with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they are younger Sahaba like Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, right? What's implausible about them trying to get as much knowledge from the earlier Sahaba and reporting it? What is implausible about it? I mean, what would someone in the position of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma do if he is interested in knowledge about Islam? He would take a hadith from the earlier companions, right, who spend a lot more time with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's the issue with this? He would have heard, because he was quite young, he wouldn't have heard a lot of the hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly, but he would have been extremely able to gather a hadith from other Sahaba, from older Sahaba. There is nothing implausible about this. So the first contention about Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, that's refuted here. Now there's a second contention about Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Atta bin Abi Rabah radiallahu anhu was his student, right? And Amr bin Dinar, I think, was student of his students. Anyway, the contention is that both of these uh, in their work in Musannaf Abdul Razak don't report a lot of the ahadith, right? uh, so ahadith either didn't exist at that time or they weren't authoritative, and this shows that later ahadiths were made up. Okay, so understand this issue. An author at a particular time, right, isn't necessarily intending to report all the ahadith that he knows, if the topic he is reporting on doesn't need it. For example, Atta bin Abi Rabah radiallahu anhu, in his work that is in Musannaf Abdul Razak, it is a fiqh work. He is merely interested in quoting fiqh rulings. If that is the case, why does he need to report a hadith? More than that, there's actually examples here in Musannaf Abdul Razak, right, where Atta bin Abi Rabah quotes a narration 3 times. Particular narration, only one quotes a ruling 3 times. Only once does he mention that it is a hadith. So he knows it is a hadith, he's quoting it 3 times, but only once does he mention that this is actually a hadith. The other times he is just quoting it as a fiqh ruling. In fact, Harold Modsky in his analysis points this out, that from this we cannot deduce that the ahadith attributed to Abdullah ibn Abbas are fabricated. In fact, he also makes the same point I did. Atta bin Abi Rabah would have known a lot more ahadith than he is quoting here. So this contention doesn't work. Similar case applies to Amr bin Dinar in his work, that is in his reports that are recorded in Musannaf Abdul Razak. It's also a fiqh work. He is mainly interested in quoting rulings from Sahaba and the Tabi'een. Now think about this. I'll just give you a thought experiment here. A lot of the reports that are quoted from Tabi'een in the work of Amr bin Dinar rahmatullah are not in the work of Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah. Does that mean those reports from the Tabi'een didn't exist in the time of Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah? No, he just Imam Atta just doesn't is not interested in quoting those hadiths because those reports from Tabi'een, because he is interested in reporting his own fiqh rulings, which are based on ahadith and the teachings from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma. If that is the case, right, how is it an issue that a lot of ahadith are not mentioned there? Why do they need to be? I mean, this contention basically assumes that the intention of the authors of Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah and Amr bin Dinar rahmatullah is to quote a lot of ahadith. What if it's not their motivation? What if their motivation is just to quote either their fiqh rulings or the fiqh ruling of others? How does this show ahadith didn't exist at the time, or ahadith were made up later? I mean, this is just a nonsensical claim. More than that, since these are students of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, right, the contention is that very few or almost none ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas are in these two works, while ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu abound. There are a lot of ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu overall reported in Muslim works. Now I just want you to think about this point. Atta bin Abi Rabah, if ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas existed, right, Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah would have learned those ahadith, would have already derived fiqh rulings from those ahadith. If he's just interested in quoting fiqh rulings, right, if he's not interested in quoting ahadith, and by the way, this is a point Modsky also makes, how does this show that the ahadith didn't exist at the time, or that ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu are all made up? Think about this. This is not something complicated. Tabi Nabi the contention here is that uh, because Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah alayhi and Amr bin Dinar rahmatullah alayhi, who is one of whom is a student of Abdullah ibn Abbas and the other is a student of the students of Abdullah ibn Abbas, if they are not quoting a hadith, right, from Abdullah ibn Abbas, that means that those hadiths didn't exist. Problem is this contention doesn't work because it assumes they are quoting a hadith. The intention of Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah alayhi and Amr bin Dinar rahmatullah alayhi is to quote a hadith. What if that's not their motivation? What if they are just quoting fiqh rulings and they are quoting fiqh rulings that are based on the ahadith of reported by Abdullah ibn Abbas? If that's the case, you wouldn't necessarily expect to find ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma in those works, which is why this contention doesn't work. By the way, and this is something Motsky notes as well, Atta bin Abi Rabah rahmatullah alayh was extremely hesitant to name his sources for his works. If that's the case, even if at times he was reporting ahadith, he wouldn't name them. So how does this show that the ahadith from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu are made up? Again, these are the same points that I've been making till now. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I mean, at the end of the day, the point I'm making actually it's similar to the point that Motsky made in his book Origins of Makkan Jurisprudence, Makkan Fiqh, basically, that if a hadith is not present in a particular work, right, that doesn't mean a hadith didn't exist at the time, especially if the authors of those works weren't focusing on a hadith and were not intending to quote a hadith. If that's the case, how does this show that the later ahadith are made up? It can't show. Inshallah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Inshallah, I'll keep refuting these clowns till next time. Assalamu alaikum.